Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Gift and you're welcome to Gift and She Couture. So in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful short dress. Okay, it's a kaftan bubu. Alright, so if it's something you really want to learn, kindly stay tuned. And if this is your first time of coming across my channel, please do well to subscribe so you can always get more notification whenever I post a new video. Thank you. So the first thing I did was to measure the length of the gown, which is 36. Okay, I measure it round all the way down. So after I was done doing that, but before you measure the gown, fold your fabric actually from the shoulder back to where you want it to stop. All right, so I actually measured 16 inches, so from the shoulder to I think below our biceps, so it's actually 16 inches. All right, so after I finish doing that, and that's what I'm going to use for the gathers. All right, the fabric I just put out there. So measure the 16 inches all the way down, and when you are done, go down by 2.5 inches and connect it just like what you are seeing on the screen. So after you are done, just go ahead and cut it. It's just a simple dress. So when you are done, mark from where you measure 2.5 downward. Okay, you measure 10 inches, because that's where it's going to be your armhole, and then cut it out. Really sorry guys, I didn't know the light was disconnected. I didn't really notice that. Okay, for the meantime, just bear with me. So I went ahead to place the first one to cut the second one. Like, the first one I cut is actually going to use for the back. Okay, and because the second one, the front has a placket, it has buttonholes. So I went ahead to measure 2 inches away from the from the actual measurement. Okay, that means the front is 16.5 inches, 18.5 inches, while the back is 16 point inches. And after I was done, I went ahead to give it a press just to indicate the measurement I'm going to use for the placket. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to iron it properly. So I flip it, I flip the front to the back just like what you are seeing on the screen. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to measure the neckline. Okay, just like the way you are cutting your shirt. So I used 2.5 as the width of the neck and 3 inches as the depth. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to cut it. All right, so guys, if this is your first time of coming across my channel, kindly do well to subscribe so you can always be the first person to get notifications whenever I post a new video. So for the back, I went ahead to notch where I cut out. So for the back, I went down by 1 inches. All right, I went down by 1 inches and then connected to meet the neckline, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and I went ahead to cut it. So after I was done cutting it, I went ahead to slit the 2.5 inches that I'm going to use for the placket. And after I was done doing that, I went ahead to use iron to fold it. So the first thing I did was to fold half inch. Okay, so after I was done doing that, I went ahead to fold the actual 1 inch. Okay, and it actually stopped where I notch. All right, so just like what you're seeing, after I was done doing that, I went ahead to place it just like what you're doing. I went ahead to do the second side and I placed the both together. After I finished folding the placket, I noticed they were longer than each other, so I had to cut them off. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to place it. So I picked the back and the front together just to join the shoulder line. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to weave it. So after I was done weaving, I went ahead to measure the neckline. Okay, since the fabric I'm using is not really up to 1 yard. I mean, for the gathers, it's not really 1 to 1 yard. So I wanted to cut the neckline, the collar first. So after I was done taking the measurement of the neck, I got 8.5. So the next thing I did was to fold my fabric diagonally, just like what you are seeing on the screen. Because when I'm cutting bishop neck, I don't usually use the straight method. So this is how I usually fold my fabric to get the shape. So fold your fabric diagonally, just like what you are seeing, and measure the neck. So after I was done doing that, I got the measurement I needed, and I had half inch. So instead of cutting the actual 8.5, I measured 9 inches. All right. So I went ahead to replicate the second color, just like what you are seeing on the screen. And after I was done, I went ahead to measure the fabric, the one I'm going to use for the gathers. All right, actually use 4.5 inches. I did this so I can know the measurements I'm using. Okay, so after I was done, I went ahead to join it, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after I finished joining it, I said, let me take the measurement I am using for each of the sides. So I got like 2.5 inches for each side. Okay, but that 2.5 was not really enough because that was what was available. So after I was done measuring, I went ahead to sew it. After I finished sewing, I went ahead to give it a press, just like what you are seeing on the screen. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to draw the gathers. All right, I went ahead to sew it, and I started drawing the gathers. So after I was done drawing the gathers, I went ahead to sew it, just like what you are seeing on the screen. So just like what you're seeing, before I join it to the fabric, I needed to sew the hemming, the down part first. All right, so just like what you're seeing on the screen, I went ahead to fold the down part, just like what you're seeing on the screen, before joining the gathers. All right, so after I was done doing that, I went ahead to iron it, just like the way I always do my work. All right, so after I was done doing that, I went ahead to um join the other fabric to it. After drawing the gathers, you can see the gathers was not much. All right, so if you are going to repeat this style, okay, replicate this style, just make sure you use enough fabrics. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to iron the side that I joined and cut off my thread, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So I went ahead to weave it as well, the joining part. So after I was done joining it, I went ahead to fold the shoulder because I had to close it. All right, remember I measured 10 inches away from the shoulder joining. All right, so just like what I'm about to do, I went ahead to measure 10 inches away from the shoulder joint, because that's basically where the armhole is going to come out from. So if you are sewing it for a fatter person, someone that is fat, okay, so just follow this method. So I went ahead to do it on the other side, and after I was done, I went ahead to um sew it down, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after I was done sewing it down, just like what you're seeing on the screen, you can see it's being closed, the side are closed properly, neatly. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to sew my collar. Remember, the collar I cut was actually for me to manage the fabric. All right, so after I was done, I actually used 2 inches for the collar. I folded half, and the total of what I got at the end of the day was something like 1.5. So after I was done, so I fixed my collar from the front, just like what you are seeing on the screen. I made sure I notched the center. I folded into two, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and I notched the center of the collar. So from that center, I also notch the center of the bag, and I place it just like what you're seeing, and sew it from this end to the other end, from the center back to the center front. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to flip it to the other side and still sew from the front, not from the back. But before I continue sewing, I make sure I sewed the joining, just like what you are seeing on the screen. And after I was done doing that, I went ahead to sew it from the front, note from the front and not from the back. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead, look at it, is neatly done, just like what you're seeing on the screen. I went ahead to measure, because this is the fabric I'm going to use for the cover buttons. Okay, because so I went ahead to mark my um the lines that there was going to pass, like the distance of the buttons. Actually use 3.5, just like what you are seeing. I use it like that all the way. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to fix the buttonholes, fix the buttons, and this is the outcome. It was neatly done. The only thing I noticed was that the gathers was not full, but this is it. I hope you like it. I hope you learn. Please don't forget to like, share and comment. Thank you.